evidence of election fraud in the Georgia case. Fast forward to August 2023. Georgia Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis brought an indictment with 41 criminal charges for election interference against 19 defendants, including President Trump. As I said before, Trump's state of mind is the critical issue in this case. The prosecution has to prove intent to engage in wrongdoing. That means that Donald Trump had to secretly believe that Joe Biden won, and then he pushed claims of voter fraud that he knew were not true. Trump has pled not guilty in the case. Last week, Sidney Powell pled guilty to 6 of the charges in the case. She's agreeing to 6 years of probation, a $6,000 fine, and an additional $2,700 restitution payment to the state. She also agreed to testify at the upcoming trial against Trump, and also agreed to not have any communication with any of the defendants or the media until the case is over. Now, I started this video by saying that there is something shocking about this plea agreement. Take a look at this. This is the plea agreement from Sidney Powell. It mentions she is admitting guilt for conspiracy to commit theft by taking and 5 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties. These are misdemeanors. It's similar to her pleading guilty to a traffic ticket. But if you look at her plea deal, you will notice that something is missing. There is no guilty plea for racketeering under the RICO statute. Now let us look at the legal documents that were filed by Fani Willis at the start of this case. Here's the official legal complaint. This is a 95-page document detailing all the steps taken by the 19 individuals to allegedly overturn the election. You can see that there is a long list of criminal charges, but the first charge is racketeering. This one charge is the bulk of the case. Of the 98 pages in the document, pages 20 to 71 are about the racketeering charge. Racketeering is the whole point of the case, because without racketeering, there is no way to tie all these different people together. The argument is that Trump was the head of a criminal organization and pulling the strings of all the moving pieces in order to commit a crime. What is so shocking is that what she's pleading guilty to is not related to the charges against Donald Trump. The plea deal should have said that she pleads guilty to racketeering, but instead, the misdemeanor charges appear to be related to the scandal that happened in Coffee County. So what happened in Coffee County? Coffee County is a small, mostly Republican county. The day after the January 6 protests at the Capitol, election officials let an IT repairman access the voting machines and create copies of the hard drives. This was after the election. No votes were affected. They just copied the files to maintain evidence of what happened. But this was done without following proper procedures. It was all caught on video, so there's really not any dispute over what happened. There's also a check for $26,000 from Sidney Powell paying the repairman for his work for the day. It's pretty clear from this evidence that this was wrong. Any voting-related equipment is required to remain secure at all times. No one should have access without authorization. What Sidney Powell should have done in this situation was receive a court order to inspect the voting machines and then hire the repairman. She did not go through the proper steps. So it appears what Sidney Powell pled guilty to was the very specific incident in Coffee County. In fact, other people involved in the case have also pled guilty, and it appears that their pleas were also related to the Coffee County incident. Do you see what's going on here? Now let's look at this situation from Sidney Powell's perspective. Under her plea agreement, she gets off with a misdemeanor, which is like a traffic ticket. She gets no felonies. And she does not have to pay the $1 million it would cost her to go through a trial. Not only that, she was prosecuted under the Georgia First Offender Act. She has no previous criminal record, which means that if she complies with the terms of her sentence, she will show no conviction on her criminal record. Not only that, if she is pleading guilty to the Coffee County incident, she does not have to admit to anything related to Trump because the racketeering charges are not involved. You need to remember that there are two parties in a plea deal. Sidney Powell is agreeing to something, but the prosecution is also agreeing to something. The prosecution is admitting that Sidney Powell had nothing to do with any racketeering crime. They can never prosecute her for that. In fact, the prosecution has made the same agreement with the other people who have pled guilty. The prosecution is admitting that there was no racketeering crime related to any of these people. It seems to me that Sidney Powell negotiated for herself one of the best plea agreements I have ever seen. Not only did she get off almost scot-free, she has single-handedly torpedoed the prosecution's case against Donald Trump. Think about it. The prosecution has now publicly admitted that Sidney Powell, the main lawyer in the center of all these election lawsuits, had nothing to do with racketeering. How in the world are they going to convict Trump of racketeering when they admitted that Sidney Powell did not commit racketeering? Fani Willis was so desperate to get the headline that Sidney Powell pled guilty that she agreed to a sweetheart deal. She is sinking her own case for the headline. I don't think that Fani cares about winning the case at this point. She just wants as many headlines as she can get. So let us get back to the Kraken. What is the Kraken? When Sidney Powell went on TV in 2020 and said that she was going to release the Kraken, she was saying that when the case goes to trial, they were going to present evidence that was so shocking that it would show clear corruption in the 2020 election in Georgia. But like I said earlier, the judge never allowed them to present their evidence. We have never seen the Kraken. But keep this in mind. From what we have heard, it is going to be more shocking than the evidence we already know about. I just showed you some evidence that we already know about, and Trump's report apparently contains evidence that is even more shocking. Hours after Donald Trump was indicted by Fani Willis, he posted on Truth Social this message. A large, complex, detailed, but irrefutable report on the presidential election fraud which took place in Georgia is almost complete and will be presented by me at a major news conference at 11 a.m. on Monday of next week in Bedminster, New Jersey. Shortly after this tweet, Trump changed his mind about the press conference and posted, "Rather than releasing the report on the rigged and stolen Georgia 2020 presidential election on Monday, my lawyers would prefer putting this, I believe, irrefutable and overwhelming evidence of election fraud and irregularities in formal legal filings as we fight to dismiss this disgraceful indictment." So the press conference never happened, and the report was never released. But Donald Trump claims that he has in his possession significant evidence about fraud in the 2020 election. This is the Kraken. Trump is holding it and is planning on releasing it during the trial when the maximum number of people will be watching. In his words, it will completely vindicate him from the allegations in the trial. This is the biggest mistake Fani Willis has made. The thing with trials is that unlike in the media and on YouTube, both sides get a chance to present their evidence. Fani Willis is providing Trump a platform that he was denied in his previous cases. He will get the chance to produce the evidence of cheating in the 2020 election with the whole world watching.